This is the Roller and the Stroller podcast. I'm Josiah, the roller, and I was born with cerebral palsy and navigate the world in a wheelchair alongside my best friend Kelly, the stroller.
In this podcast, we discuss living with a disability, adapting to surroundings in a wheelchair, and the challenges we face together. We talk about things like going to concerts, traveling, everyday tasks, and sports.
But also get into deeper topics like religion, self-talk, medical needs, and some of the frustrations of using a wheelchair. We will give insight on how to enjoy life with a disability
and share advice on how to understand someone with a disability.
Welcome to the Roller and the Stroller.
This podcast is a Sidewallstudios production. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Roller and the Stroller.
What's up? I'm Josiah, the resident roller.
And I am Kelly, and I am the stroller, and welcome to today's episode. But before we get into our topic, something absolutely amazing happened this weekend where I literally called you, texted you right away. By the time this episode is released, it'll be old news, but we just found out our good friends Yellow Card are coming back.
Yeah.
I low-key thought you were going to scream right there.
I was, but then I was like, no.
Probably not a good idea on the mic.
Probably not a good idea on the mic. Yellow Card is back, baby!
Oh my God, I was literally texting you as soon as I saw it. We bought tickets pre-sale to Denver and Florida. Reason why we're going to Florida, you guys will find out later. We have a special guest today.
Yeah, boy!
He is brand new to the podcasting world.
Look at his face over there.
So
Look
nervous.
at him.
Just kidding.
Ooh.
Do I say hello yet?
Yeah,
or?
go.
Yeah, you can say hello.
Hi, everybody.
Any
My
more
name's
words?
Andy. I live in Orlando, Florida.
Do you want to say that?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Okay.
We're just talking about where I live, not my opinions on it.
No, you wanted to let people know where you live?
Well, we
They
know
can stalk you.
they know where we live.
Oh, that's true.
It's fine.
That's true. It's fine.
Yeah.
Orlando's a big city.
Orlando's a very big place, and there's probably outskirts that aren't even in the city that are considered part of the city. So
Big news, or Yellow Card is coming, but not only are they coming back together for their 20-year anniversary of Ocean Avenue, but who is touring with them?
We have mentioned this before on the podcast. One of our favorite bands ever. Story of the Year!
Yes. Remember our first few episodes were like a free promo of their new album, of their new record?
I think they need to sponsor us. I honestly do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So they are touring with Yellow Card. However, they are not coming to Denver. They are going to Florida. So Josiah and I are flying to Florida to hang out with Andy and also see Yellow Card.
But mainly for Yellow Card.
Absolutely. Well, no, Story of the Year, bro.
Mainly. Oh.
Well, shoot.
Are we going to fight?
I think we're about
on
to
this
fight
podcast?
right now. Oh, no. That's okay.
Yellow Card has not been with us for at least 6 years. We need to celebrate them. Story of the Year has not released an album in 6 years either.
No.
So they're both returning to us.
It's so exciting. So great news. Happy news. You're welcome for brightening everybody's day.
You're welcome, world.
Even though this is old news by the time you listen to this episode, but it's totally fine.
It will.
All right. So now that important, vital piece of information is out there from the Roller and the Stroller, we're going to have our dear friend Andy talk to us about his first experience with meeting my friend Josiah, but even deeper, learning about how Josiah feels about meeting my friends.
Buckle up, America.
buckle up.
Andy, you have a very crisp
He does
voice.
have a crisp sound. He's like, buckle up.
Buckle up.
This is Wednesdays with Andy.
When is it Wednesday? It's Thursday.
Thursdays with
Whatever.
Andy.
By the time you guys hear this, it's a Friday, but whatever.
Ooh.
Ooh, Friend Friday.
Do you have the first question?
I do. So hold on. I want to talk about why this relates to your accessibility and your CP. Your disability and CP is like, you have this thing about like being really nervous about meeting my friends. And I don't know, does that have anything to do with your disability, or is that just your self-esteem or overthinking mind?
I think it's a combination of things. I think, yes, my disability is a part of my identity. So, yes, I'm really nervous when I meet other people, especially people that I don't know at all or very well, which is the case when I met Andy, who is my friend now. Basically, the majority of the time, I'm super nervous because I'm like, what will they think? Like, how will they interact with me? What will they ask me? All of those different things, and like how will they respond to the wheelchair, which I know is like a weird question, maybe, but it's something that I think about being a wheelchair user. Like, how will they respond to this especially when they haven't had to think about it before?
Because we talked a little bit about my first time kind of handling a wheelchair, so it is very interesting for me to like introduce you to my friends. Not that I could care less what you do, but I do have to tell my friends like we have to do things a little bit differently, right? And the first time we met Andy, we actually went to a concert.
Yeah, we just have to do things a little bit differently.
So do you think our listeners are surprised that the first time I introduced my two best friends was at a concert?
No, at this
Thrice
point,
concert, no.
At this point, I would say no.
No.
But yeah, I do think about it in terms of me being in a wheelchair specifically, because it's very unique.
I've known Andy since I was like 16 or 17. So we have a really a wonderful friendship when we were little teenagers.
Yeah,
I don't know.
End of middle school, early high school.
I introduced you to in Florida. Josiah and I flew down to Florida. I'm correct on this, right? I'm not making.
Yes,
okay.
that was the first time
we met was at my house.
Okay, so we flew
Coming
down
out of the rental car.
Yeah, we flew down to Florida because it was my birthday, and Thrice happened to be playing 2 days in a row in Florida, and I was like, duh, I'm gonna go all
We
out.
gotta go.
We gotta go. And you were nervous.
I was. I asked you many things. And I think one of the things that I want to say that I asked you was, do you think he will like me? And yes, I just think that in general, but it's even more of an emphasis for me because of the fact that I do use a wheelchair. And so that could be seen as a hindrance to many people, and like, how will they respond to me? How will they like me? That is a thing that I think about, and I don't know if I should, but I do.
On the flip side of that, what I'm thinking when I introduce my friends to you is, are they going to be thinking they have to walk around eggshells?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because some people in wheelchairs, rightfully so, do not have such a optimistic mindset like you. I'm thinking, do my friends think that they have to walk around eggshells with Josiah?
This was actually one of my biggest concerns when I very first met you. And like the first thing that happened was you getting out of the rental car. And I think you might have like slipped or something getting into your wheelchair, and you immediately made a joke about it.
That doesn't surprise me.
From that point on, I was like, okay, I don't need to really watch it that much. Like, if he's going to joke about it, how much do I really need to worry?
Were you surprised about how swole I was?
I don't pay attention to such things.
I do. Ladies, he is swole and single.
Got him.
However, you have to have good arm muscles if you're pushing yourself all day.
He do. And he looking super sharp in his vest right now. Mm-hmm.
It was
Showing
my work
off the
fit.
guns.
It was my work fit.
We just got off work, so we look fantastic right
Hey,
now.
we're not recording at like 9.
I know.
We're recording at a decent
We're
time.
actually awake right now. So Andy, my dearest friend, you can probably hear my paper, and that's fine. Also, my dog is playing with the squeaky toy, so if you hear that, hello. My dog is also named Andrew.
He
and you
happens
guys
to have the same first and middle name as I do.
Yeah, both Andrew Michaels. That was not on purpose.
Don't say his name.
I'm talking
They'll
about my
look him up.
dog. My dog is Andrew Michael. Okay, so Andy, I want to talk to you. I have 5 questions I've written out that I want to hear your honest opinion. Andy does not know the questions I'm about to ask, and neither does Josiah. So I just want to hear your honest opinion. This is a free speech podcast where you can say whatever you want.
You start crying, it'll get us more listens.
Yeah, clickbait. I want Andy, from your own words, how did I explain Josiah to you?
So
Ooh, this is a good one.
prior to knowing that I was going to meet Josiah, I had heard of him through Kelly. She told me that she had this new friend that, as a result of his disability, she had to make a lot of changes to her daily activities, and she didn't really explain too much about him until I knew that I had to meet him, at which point she like explained his wheelchair and how he had to move around, and then showed me a couple pictures of him. And I don't think the pictures even showed his wheelchair, they just showed him smiling with a goofy face and stuff like that. That was sort of setting the tone. That was my first impression of Josiah. It wasn't really of his disability, it was again his smiling goofy face.
So my first impression of you rolling through work was that silly grin. So kind of the same.
Did she say anything that was like made you wary to meet me?
No, I don't think so at all. And I don't really have much of a mindset on differences. Like humans have all sorts of different variations and different conditions, I guess. For somebody to tell me that they have a friend with one of those conditions, it's just more access, I guess. I'm not sure if I'm wording that properly, but I wasn't concerned. I was just interested, I guess.
You are a very interesting person, Josiah. So essentially, I really honestly don't remember how I talked about you to him. I do say when I'm talking about you to a friend that hasn't met you that you are in a wheelchair, because it's important. It's not how I describe you, but it's important that my friends understand, like, hey, we're going to have to do things differently here, and I'm going to need your help.
We're going to have to find ramps and elevators at concert venues, and I'm going to need a boost if necessary up the uphills.
Mm-hmm.
Not on the downhills.
I saw you rolling at speed down the downhills.
Yep. Let's go.
Next question, number 2. Were you curious about how Josiah got in a wheelchair, or did you have any assumptions of how he got into a wheelchair?
So my main curiosity in respect to that was whether he was born with cerebral palsy or whether it was something that developed. I had read a book as a child. It was called, I think, Dive, and it was 3 books about children that went diving. And if I remember the plot line correctly, one of the children got the bends from being down too long, and after coming up, they had developed cerebral palsy. That was a book that I read as an early child, and it was something that sparked an interest in diving, which I no longer have. But as a result, that part of the book stayed with me. So I've had the term in the back of my mind for a long time.
How did you know that Josiah had CP? Did I tell you?
Yes, you told me.
Okay, so I did tell him. I don't freaking remember. So, okay, cool.
What did you say?
I don't freaking remember.
Okay.
I don't really remember. Everything in my mind goes like full speed. So
I imagine you told me that he was in a wheelchair, and then one of my first questions to ask would have been why.
essentially, you were curious then. If that was your question, then you were curious. After I told you that he had CP and your curiosity of whether he was born with it or developed it, anything was that kind of the end of your curiosity?
My curiosity in respect to Josiah or in respect to CP?
To Josiah and his specific kind of CP.
To be honest with you, I didn't realize there were different kinds. I figured it just affected the body in different ways for different people. So that's kind of interesting.
Look at us.
There are different kinds.
Spreading knowledge.
And in the words of Mother Monster, I was born this way. But it probably, when you're younger, the research at the time was you can develop your muscles, you can strengthen your muscles where you can walk, or you can essentially take more control. That was the research at the time that I was born. And then what we decided to do was, like, none of the traditional therapy, none of the traditional exercises were working for me specifically. So we got me a wheelchair. My first wheelchair was named Penelope.
Beautiful name.
She had a rainbow seatbelt,
That's awesome, bro.
which was indicative. And then also she had my name on the back of her seat.
Whoa. Like movie star status.
Yeah.
That's pretty sick, bro. We need to do that to Fury.
No, Fury's perfect the way she is.
Okay, sorry. Dang. My bad. So, third question, number 3. What did you think when you saw him? Was he what you expected?
Yeah. Again, the goofy smile.
He just said,
Silly
yeah.
Yeah.
And again, just making jokes right out of the gate.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you remember what I said to you first?
Not at all.
Do you remember what the joke was that I said?
No, unfortunately, I don't.
Do you remember?
I don't remember.
I'm surprised you don't remember. You remember everything. I think you said something like, I broke my legs, because that's usually your go-to.
Yeah.
That's usually your go-to. When you fall, I'm like, are you okay? And you're like, oh, I broke my legs.
Oops.
So nothing really surprised you. He was what you expected then.
More or less, yeah.
Okay. I told you before you met him, I said literally he could be best friends with a brick wall.
That's very true. I have no expectations of anything.
Yes. See? And you were like, oh my God. Because we can talk about this really quick. Let's pull this in. The friend you met before him was a bad situation at Fiddler's Green. So I don't know if you had.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. And then also, but we just need to talk about me, because I'm naturally like, well, he liked me. Like, I'm not sure how I will interact, because like you and Andy have your own friendship, your own inside jokes, your own relationship. I was like, I don't want to get in the way of this. Like, I feel like I would be in the way of his house. Like, we're staying at his house during the concert. And I was like, I don't want to be a burden. All of these things inside of my head. And I was like, are you sure? And then you were like, chill.
So does that stem from your disability, or is that just being an overthinking friend? Because I have to tell you, I think the same things when I meet people's friends.
I'm a chronic overthinker as well. And I think my disability does not help it, but we out here, people with disabilities are out there.
You're rolling around.
Yep, rolling around through the streets of Orlando.
Oh. Okay. Next question. Were you surprised, Andy, by the things we had to do to get around with Josiah?
I was surprised by how mobile he is on his own and how capable he is of rolling and getting around places. And like I mentioned, you flying down one of the ramps. And at one point, I think you got a little fed up with the crowd and all the people around us. So you just sort of zoomed off out of the way on your own. I mean, that was kind of cool to me. Like you can really speedily get out of the situation.
So it's so funny you mentioned that, because that is, I can't even process what I'm trying to say.
That doesn't have to do with my disability.
No, it doesn't. But
like,
Josiah,
I gotta leave. I gotta go.
Josiah and I, but mostly you lately. But at that time, what was happening is we both get very overwhelmed when there is a ton of people around, except at concerts. But we have had anxiety attacks together at the same time at Costco, and that was terrifying. So when that was happening, Andy, I knew what you were going through, and I don't think he understood what was going on in your head. That is wild that you bring that up.
I think I just said, I just need a minute.
Yeah.
And I was like, zoom, zoom, zoom.
And I knew, I was like, uh-oh, because your mood immediately changes. You go from like, hell yeah, we're going to Thrice, to bye, and you leave. You yeet off into oblivion and don't say a word.
And it's bad because I don't tell anybody. Yeah.
Right. You don't say anything. And it makes me freak out because unfortunately you can't walk. And if something were to happen and you just yeet away from me, there's nothing I can do.
I was given anxiety too.
But to finish that point, like if you're comfortable to go off on your own like that, like clearly you're mobile, clearly you can get around. Obviously you do need things to be accessible, but you do have a way to make it work.
Were you expecting us to do something that we didn't do in terms of like being with a wheelchair user?
No, I think everything was, as a wheelchair accessibility thing, I'm looking for, me as a non-wheelchair user, I'm looking for ramps and I'm looking for elevator access. The place that we went out together was a theme park, and I think they have pretty heavy regulations about that, so they were pretty good about it. And the people at the concert venue, we spoke to them prior to the concert. We got there early, and they got us in prior to everybody else, so we didn't have to fight a crowd upstairs.
How early did we get there?
It had to have been hours.
Why you gotta look at me like that, man?
But I figured we were doing that to get first in line, regardless of having a wheelchair or not.
That's my favorite
I figured
thing.
we just wanted to be up front.
So essentially, I will tell our listeners, our trip was relatively easy. We didn't really have any issues because Andy's place at the time was single level. I remember I asked you that.
And Florida is extremely flat, and it's rare to have staircases, and it's even rarer to have split levels or basements or anything like that.
So it was fine. We didn't have really any issues. Plus, there's no snow, so you don't have to really deal with that. Here, you definitely do.
All the roads are flat. All the roads are paved, and there's sidewalks.
I do
almost
remember you
everywhere.
being worried about like your 2 little steps that you had. I was like, I got this.
Well, that again, I don't have too many experiences with people with disabilities or in wheelchairs. So moreover, every single person is different. So I don't know everybody's capability. 1 step may be accessible to some people, whereas 1 step may be inaccessible. And then to some people, even 10 steps may be accessible.
So I know I already asked you this question about like, were you surprised about anything? But like, did you expect Josiah to be as strong as he is? Like how he can lift himself literally anywhere. It's amazing.
It is impressive.
All right. Next question. What do you wish you knew about wheelchairs and CP that you do not know now?
I think I was actually hearing this through Kelly and not through you, Josiah, but something about how difficult it is to get new wheelchairs and new parts to replace old parts and repair your own wheelchair.
That's about to change.
Oh, is it?
Colorado, shout out, just passed this year the right to repair law, which gives wheelchair owners the right to have parts to repair their wheelchairs. So essentially what was happening was we would have to go to the manufacturers and we would have to go to the places of delivery to get like a wheelchair repair, like anything from caster wheels to bearings to handles to any of that stuff. Now we don't. We can go through third-party distributors and stuff like that to get our parts delivered to our homes so we can repair them ourselves, which is huge.
This might be a silly question, but you're not like required to use a certain type of wheelchair, are you?
No, I have one that best fits me, which is the one I have now.
And you found that through trial and error and experience and whatnot?
Bro, I was measured. They even have a butt mold for my seat. it's like my butt is molded to that seat. It's customized for me, which is pretty cool. They're like, how far do your arms go out, Josiah? And I showed them and they were like, great, so we need to put the wheels here so you can grab them effectively. All of that stuff is wild.
Like, say you cracked your frame somehow, would you have to go get a new one custom measured?
Absolutely. Fury is titanium, so she is more durable than my last one. No shade.
We love Priscilla.
We
We miss Priscilla. Rest in peace, Priscilla.
What happened to Priscilla?
She retired.
She is no longer effective.
She cashed out her 401k.
I'm sorry to hear that.
It's okay. The lifespan of a wheelchair is usually 5 to 6 years. And I got Fury in 2020. I got Fury during the COVID year.
You did. Anything that you wish you knew about CP? I mean, you did learn that there's different types already.
I did.
Is there anything else?
I mean, I'd like to be more informed in general about everything. So, no, there's not really anything specific, but it is something now that I have a friendship with Josiah that it's entered into my life. So I suppose I should know more about it. And it's similar to the fact that, you know, like I know a bit about heart disease and cancer because I do have the effects of that in my life. But you are the first person that I've met with cerebral palsy. So I haven't known you for that long yet. So I'm really just entering into having it in my realm of knowledge.
Aww. Did you expect to be my friend?
I expected to like you, yeah.
You did?
I told you. This man could be a best friend with a brick wall.
Again, I have very little expectations, so
I mean, he's friends with me.
I knew that
What
Kelly
does that
liked you, and I knew that you were going to be goofy, and I figured as long as I could have a conversation with you, then there was no reason I couldn't be friends with you.
We did. Do you remember our conversation over hurricanes? We had a couple of hurricanes. Do you remember?
I do.
Okay.
The alcohol. We did not have a couple hurricanes in Florida. Me and Josiah didn't ride out.
I was trying to make sense of that because we did just have a couple hurricanes in Florida.
But I should probably tell you and all of the listeners that I have a cerebral palsy type that is called spastic dysplasia, which means I have spasticity in my legs, and then it affects from the waist down. It affects half my body.
So I already asked you. I mean, you kind of already answered this without me asking you, but I'm just going to reiterate. You've never been friends with somebody in a wheelchair before? Or have you?
I've been friends with people that have used wheelchairs for brief times, but I've never been friends with somebody that is bound to a wheelchair.
So we don't use that term anymore.
Noted.
Bound sounds like a prison or a choice that we have, and this is a mobility device. We use it for independence, and we are not bound to it because it is not restrictive in any way. It actually helps us be more mobile.
Right.
So we use them.
So wheelchair user.
We use them.
Is the correct term. I got schooled on that a few episodes ago. And now I know. And now you guys know.
That's what I get for not doing my homework.
No, and it's okay. I don't mean to do that to throw shade, but it's just like, if you're going to be on this podcast, you're going to learn.
You're going to learn today.
And if you're not on this podcast, if you're listening to this podcast, you're going to learn also. People in the disability community do prefer different terms. And like, I prefer my specific set of terms. And like, that could not apply to anybody else you talk to. And that's okay. So I would just take the lead from them. So if they refer to themselves as like differently abled, which is a term that's thrown around, say that instead of like disabled. if that makes sense.
It's just real life. Okay. So,
Andy, hold on. Are you excited to see Story of the Year?
Yes, I am.
Do you know who that is?
I think it's a polka band.
Yes.
the best polka
You
band.
got it right.
I'm just kidding. Yeah, I know who they are.
Retweet. So those are all the questions that I have for Andy. Josiah, do you have any questions that you've been dying to ask Andy about y'all's first encounter?
Bro, I just need you to know, like, if I was at all seemed anxious around you, it's because of the things in my head. So I was like,
No worries. I expected as much. It was my first time meeting you. You were in a state that you've
Never
live
been
in,
to.
and
I'd
never
never
been
had
to
been.
at that point. On top of that, I had roommates at the time, so it wasn't just me you were meeting,
And the dogs.
and the dogs.
and the dogs. How are they doing?
Peanut's great. She's just had her 6th birthday.
Peanut
And-
6.
I know.
When are we going to introduce her to Andrew?
We've tried.
She doesn't travel too well.
Andrew doesn't either.
Yeah. He doesn't. You're right. He threw up last time. You cleaned it up. Thank you, Josiah, for cleaning up Andrew's throw up.
No, it was because he ate the food.
Yeah, but he had a
ate
long
the entire
day.
canister of
He
food.
had a long day. We went to the Grand Canyon.
Okay, we're getting off topic.
Sorry. It just happens when you talk about dogs.
Future
That's-
editing, Kelly. Did you have anything you want to say to me that you were afraid to say to me at the time? Like, did it take me cracking the first joke for you to be like, okay?
Well, I didn't exactly get a chance for anything else to happen. Again, that was pretty much the first thing you did. Based on my explanation of you from Kelly, and again, knowing that you were relatively open and would talk about things, anything that I was concerned about, I felt willing to at least broach the topic with you and ask how you felt about it prior to me going any further.
Okay, that's good. That makes me feel a lot better that it's just my disposition that makes conversation inviting. I'm serious. Did you expect us to go to a concert? Like, Kelly tells you we're going to a concert. We're flying out there to Florida to go to a concert with a person who uses a wheelchair. What was your first reaction?
I knew we were going to have to take extra precautions, and meaning things like leaving early, but I knew that Kelly had been your friend for a long time and had experience under her belt traveling with you and going to events with you. So I knew that I could just follow her lead, and anything that I saw her doing, if she wasn't available, I could be doing. Like, I just wanted to keep an eye out if you needed a hand with anything. I could be there to help you.
If you're going to a concert with somebody in the wheelchair, what was the first thing that you're going to think? You're probably going to be like, oh, we're going to sit in the accessible area. So were you a little bit like, oh, we are not sitting in the accessibility area. We're going to the front row. Not only that, Josiah is going to rage like everybody else. Were you expecting that, or were you like, oh, we will be sitting calmly and just chilling in the accessible area?
I did expect to be off to the side a little bit. I didn't expect to be right in the front.
And where were we, Andy?
We were dead front, dead center.
Yeah, boy!
And honestly, I think that helped Josiah out because it gave him something, the fence in front to plan
Yeah, something to
on.
hold on to.
And he was up jumping out of his chair, leaning on the fence. And
Have you ever seen anything like that?
No, I don't think so. I don't get out much, but
No.
Dustin, sponsor us,
Dustin
please.
Kinzer, we love you. And obviously he loves you because he always gives you something at the show.
He
Always.
just needs to answer if he likes Linkin Park.
He loves you.
I tweeted him months ago.
You tweeted him, yes.
And
No
Avicii-
reply?
no reply. He's tweeted. How many times have you tweeted?
Two times
Two.
now.
About Avicii?
Once about Linkin Park, once about Avicii.
Avicii, rest in
If
peace.
anybody out there knows this information,
If Dustin
please
likes
let us
them.
know.
So Josiah, my turn to ask you questions. What did you think when you first met Andy?
I think I was just really nervous to meet him because I didn't know what he would think about my wheelchair. I didn't know what you said about me or how you described me to him. This is another thing that I worry about. It's like when I meet your friends, you obviously have your own relationship, your own friendship with them. And I don't want to be a hindrance to that, if that makes sense. You've known him longer. You've known him since childhood. So you will talk about things that I won't have a clue of. And so, like, I don't want to be in the way. All of these things go into my head, like, should I have said that? I should have just shut up there. Like, was that joke appropriate or anything like that? Should I say I just broke my legs? Like, is that going to be funny to him? Like, is that going to be funny to you, the listener? Like, I don't know these things. I just kind of say things throw stuff against the wall and like whatever sticks is the one I'll go with. That's just my main philosophy in life, I think. But I was very nervous to meet him.
When Andy kind of helped me with you, because I know you're not a huge fan of people touching your wheelchair, how did you feel about him helping me? Did that bother you, or were you like, oh, this is a little strange? And
Like in terms of what, loading it into the car or
pushing you around, like grabbing you and like kind of...
Did you push me?
I did.
Yeah, he did.
You did?
Yeah.
At the concert or at the park?
Both. All over.
I'm pretty sure he pushed you into his house when we first got out of the car.
That is true.
Yeah.
Probably.
So how'd you feel about that?
Honestly, Kelly, if like I approached it, if like Andy is someone that you love very much, who's your dearest friend, then I'm probably going to like him. Like we're probably going to vibe. We're probably going to get along. I usually don't like people touching my wheelchair, but this is kind of like we can get into this. I would rather you help me get inside your house than you, because it is your house. Like I don't know what you're comfortable with yet. And so I didn't have a problem with that. Like I didn't know how wide your house was, and obviously you did. So I was comfortable in that circumstance.
My concern was whether I drive you forwards or backwards.
Forward so I can see, but backward is probably...
Backward seems like it goes up the steps easier.
Yeah.
Because the reason I asked that question is because you and I have been in scenarios when we worked together where someone we kind of, I wasn't like super close with, but I was friends with, and you were kind of friends or / acquaintances with, and they would kind of grab your wheelchair, and I could see that you were a little bit annoyed. And I know this is a different scenario because Andy is really me and Andy are pretty close. So I just was picking your brain about that. Like, was it weird when I was like unloading the car and he kind of like took you away?
No,
into the sunset?
It wasn't weird in that circumstance. Like, I believe I've told you once or twice before, like, please don't touch my wheelchair right now. Like, I'm not, this is not what I want. Like, half of the time, more than half the time, I'm not okay with people touching my wheelchair.
Yeah, even me.
And I need to see my wheelchair if we're at a restaurant or anything like that, because it's my mobility device.
Is
it's
that
my
ever concern
independence.
for them, like damaging it or putting it together improperly, or just maybe running away with it?
Yeah, it's to state the obvious here. I can't get up and walk. I need Fury, and Fury needs me, and it's really important to me because she costs a lot of money as well. But it's very important to me. It helps me maintain my independence. It helps me be more mobile. It helps me move. It's my baby.
Well, yeah, and like you don't want people to control you, and
Yeah, I don't like that.
It's really hard for if somebody is pushing you in a wheelchair for you to stop them from doing that. So
Yeah, I can put on my brakes or tap my wheels or whatever, but like if someone's behind me, 9 times out of 10, we're going where they want me to go, and I'm like, don't like that. I'm not in control of this situation at all. So that is why I don't like people touching my wheelchair without my permission. And sometimes that is nonverbal. Sometimes that's like a go ahead, or like sometimes that's a head nod. Hi,
Sorry,
Andrew.
my dog is.
And we can talk about like a mutual friend of ours once sat in my wheelchair,
Oh,
and I was pissed off.
Yeah.
That's a different topic because it was not Andy. Andy
was
did not
not.
sit in my wheelchair.
Andy's the golden child of the friends.
And I don't think, I don't want to speak for you, but I don't think you would.
Not without your permission, but if you wanted, or if you would let me, I'd go for a ride.
I always tell Josiah I want to put pegs on his wheels so I can just like roll down with him, but he won't let me.
Dude, when we were going down the venue at Hard Rock, I think we were at Hard Rock. We could have put pegs on there.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
True.
But meeting Andy was truly a treasure. And like you honestly, I'm gonna be straight up honest with you right now. You let a complete stranger, someone you did not know who uses a wheelchair, stay in your house.
I did.
Because you trusted your other bestie, Kelly, to vouch for me. And I think that was pretty big. He's trusting you about me. He doesn't give two hoots about me. Like, he doesn't even know who I am. He just knows I'm along for the ride. And like you said, like, you were the one to help me inside your own house, which I think was important for me, but I also wanted to do that for your sake.
They say vampires can't enter somebody's house without permission.
Oh, so you were testing. But I would have burned up in the sunlight, though.
What advice would you give maybe somebody in my position who is, an interabled relationship, and I'm introducing my friend who is in a wheelchair or with CP or other disability? How would you suggest I do that the most effective way?
Take the lead from the person you are describing. Based on your interactions with your friendship or whatever, how you interact is what they're giving you permission for. For instance, if I call myself disabled instead of differently abled, you are allowed to call me disabled, if that makes sense. If I crack jokes, you are allowed to say that. Whatever I don't say, I would stray away from saying.
Okay.
And how you describe me.
Okay.
So take the lead from the person. I will give you permission, myself or any person, please take the lead from them. Also, if you are unsure, don't say it. Don't describe them that way.
Because my thing is, like, when I'm introducing you, I try to make sure that, and correct me if I'm offending you or if this is not offensive at all. I try not to describe you as somebody in a wheelchair. I only try to say that unless it's vital, like if it's vital information. Is that wrong or is it okay?
It depends who you talk to. I would say it's okay for me because I say I'm a disabled man.
Yeah.
I'm a disabled man.
So I'm
who
not
uses a wheelchair.
Like if someone walked into my house right now and I was like, oh yeah, this is my best friend Josiah, he's in a wheelchair. I don't do that. I'm like, hey, my best friend is Josiah. We love concerts. We used to work together.
We're doing a podcast.
Yes. And it's not until it's necessary.
Yeah.
Like that,
like
I tell
if
people
you were
you're in a
walking
wheelchair.
around saying wheelchair boy, I would have a problem with that.
Right.
But it's
Also,
like-
that's kind of a cool superhero name.
Wheelchair boy.
So does the wheelchair have the cape or do you?
Both.
Okay. Like, for instance, if I'm like making room in my car and I'm asking somebody, I might say, hey, can you help me get this out? I need to make more room because, oh, my best friend's in a wheelchair. I have to put his wheelchair in my car. Like stuff like that. I try not to describe you as like how when I first met you, the kid in the wheelchair.
That has to do with tone as well. If you're saying the kid in the wheelchair.
Right. Exactly.
Like
I
all
don't
of
say
that. Like all of that. And then the other thing I would say is like, don't be afraid. You're going to have questions. If you say something wrong, we will correct you. The person who uses the wheelchair, the disabled person, will correct you. We'll say, hey, maybe we should not say that or redirect you in some way. Because disability is a lived experience and we have lived a different life. We have a different perspective and that is okay. And we will say what we think about us specifically having a disability, us using a wheelchair. We will correct you. I've had to do that with you, Kelly, and I've had to do that with you, and that's okay. You are going to say something. It's okay. Live your life. Don't be afraid to ask me. And one of the things that made me happy is like you seem genuinely open about and willing to talk about your disability. And I was like, I want to be that way because disability is a part of my life. So that encouraged me a lot. So thank you.
God, you guys have a weird bromance.
We did. Did you expect us to have a bromance? We can open that up to both of you.
No, the bromance that you guys had at the concert, I was like, dude, am I even here? Like, is this even my birthday or is this just like a bro trip right now? They're like, you guys had matching t-shirts, 2 matching t-shirts because he gave you tie-dye.
One.
Yep. And yeah, exactly. I was third wheeling on my birthday over here to my favorite band with my
you
favorite
were the fifth
people.
wheel because I had 2.
So Andy, I'm going to end this podcast with you. If you could give any advice to meeting somebody with CP or a wheelchair for the first time, what would you say in your crisp voice?
My radio ready
Take us home,
voice.
Andy. Take us home.
So
Take me home.
am I meeting them formally or informally?
Does your advice change based on the context?
Kind of, yeah. The more formal it is, honestly, the less likely I am to mention anything about it. and the more likely I am to look past it and just go on with the situation, treat them just 100% like a normal person. Because again, it's formal and I don't see them any differently from a normal person. So why am I going to bring it up in that situation? The more informal it is, the more, I guess, curiosity I have and the more willing I am to ask the person directly questions about it and satisfy that curiosity. Or just ask them questions about it and have them say, no, I don't want to talk about it, and have it end there.
What did you mean by normal?
I mean, how else do you want me to phrase it? Do you want me to say a fully abled person?
I don't like that term.
Okay.
I don't like able-bodied. I don't like normal.
I mean normal in the sense of somebody with full capacities as they would have been born.
But I was born like this.
That's a good point. Again, I'm using words to express thoughts, so they're not going to be exact, but...
Yeah, and that's okay. I would not use normal in that context. Now, fortunately, I know you. I know you're not a mean-spirited person. I know you didn't mean it as an insult.
How would you help him describe what he's trying to say then? Because I have the same problem.
So if you meant how did you mean normal? Did you mean somebody who could walk? Because you can say that. Did you mean someone who is non-disabled?
I mean the general stereotypical human with full
faculties.
They can walk, they can talk, they can think, they can hear, they have all their senses. They have full use of their bodies.
So why is that normal?
I don't know the exact statistics on it, but I think it's likely that the majority of the 9 billion people on Earth are in that condition. I think that disabled people are the minority.
So majority means normal?
I mean, to a degree, yes. It's what most people recognize. That's what normal is. Normal is a standard that most people recognize as, the center point, the baseline.
Do you value normal people more? If normal is the standard, I'm not normal according to that standard.
And again, I think I mentioned like informal versus informal situations. Formally, it's not something I would even bring up because it's something that you look past. If you can talk to somebody, so say there was a disabled person, but they still have full mental capacities and stuff. Mm-hmm. They're not a normal person, but they are still a person. There's no reason I shouldn't interact with them. They just have something that's different from the general wide standard of the human population.
So normal means majority in your mind.
I suppose that's different for everybody, but for me, if I were to picture a person, there's a normal person, and that's somebody that, again, has all their faculties, that can walk, talk, think, and has all their senses. It doesn't make anybody less worthy or less of a person to not have those things. But yes, it does make them not a normal person.
So I'm not normal.
Again, I don't think you need to take anything bad from that.
Right.
You are not a normal person, and you're unique, and you have very different things about you.
What did you mean by look past? You said we can look past your disability in a formal setting. And I was like, I don't look past my disability, so why would you?
Well, again, I have curiosities about it. If I was to meet any disabled person and I was to be in a conversation with them, if it's an informal setting, I would ask them about it. I'm curious. I'd want to know. But in a formal setting, I'm not going to bring it up. I'm not looking past like aspects of them as a person. It's just not something that I'm going to bring into the conversation.
Okay, no, that's better because I heard you say look past and I was like, wait a minute, like not acknowledge it at all, or be like, this is a person in a wheelchair. This is a person with a disability. Like,
I'll definitely think about it because again, like it's a minority. Disabled people are a minority. It's not something you see a lot, and unusual things that you don't see a lot, draw your attention. So I would pay attention to it. I wouldn't necessarily talk about sense. It.
Yeah, because context does matter, and that's what you were trying to say with that look past comment. I'm still stuck on the normal bit.
He has a problem with the word normal.
I apologize.
No, that's
I'm sure.
Okay.
Again, I'm using words to describe concepts and thoughts, so the words aren't going to exactly apply.
Right.
They're definitely not going to exactly apply to the way everybody feels about them.
Josiah, I also think it's important that like you have to let people who are like, for me, I know like I'm ignorant to a lot of the things that you go through. And if we explain what we're trying to say, I like the fact that you ask for clarification because your mind immediately goes to, oh my God, that person was like seeing me as less as a person. But really, we're not. We're just trying to explain to you, like he said, when I picture an actor or an actress, I don't think of a wheelchair.
Like you think of a human, it's a human. Sure, there's humans in
human
wheelchairs,
being.
humans in there's all sorts of different varieties, but there's that benchmark that comes into everybody's mind. And actually now I'm curious, when you think of a human, do you think of an upright standing human, or do you think of an image of yourself in a wheelchair and whatnot?
I think of myself because I'm one, selfish, and two, that's my point of view. I just don't think there's a normal way to live. There's not a normal point of view. Like when you may picture a human that could fully stand, run, and walk. I just don't think there's a normal way to be a human.
I agree
If
with
that
that.
makes sense.
I do agree with that.
A normal human is not someone who has like full capabilities and full mental faculties. That's a human being. Yeah, so I would not say that's just a normal human being. I would
right.
say that's a guy.
And
or
it's
that's a girl.
okay if we disagree.
Yeah.
And that's fine too. I need to make that point to our listeners. It's okay if you don't agree on the term normal, or you don't, but it is important that you respect each other and each other's points of view.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, the disability community does disagree about a lot of things. I don't like the word normal. I don't use it, but you can.
And I will.
Like I'm not going to like change you fundamentally as a person by telling you I don't like that word. Maybe just you're not going to use it around me anymore, which is
Great for me.
we have some rapid fire questions for you now. Thank you for having that conversation with me, by the way. I think that would be very helpful for people who have those exact same questions.
Why you look at me? Dang, I didn't do that.
No, I was looking at you, the listener.
Oh, okay.
I thought this was radio. I didn't do my hair.
All right, Josiah is gonna. Actually, we are gonna end this because we're hungry. We're getting a little hangry, I feel. So
That's just real life.
that's just real life. So Josiah, go
We
ahead.
say that every single podcast. Kelly, okay, Andy, here's what we're going to do.
Okay.
Kelly and I are going to go back and forth asking you rapid fire questions. Without thinking too much, you have to say the first thing that pops in your mind.
Okay.
Are you ready for this?
I think so.
What is your favorite Yellow Card song?
Ocean Avenue.
What is your favorite Thrice album?
Visu.
Boxers or briefs?
Boxers.
Favorite color?
Green.
Favorite place to ski?
Arapahoe Basin.
Duh. If you could travel anywhere in the world, where would it be?
The North Pole.
Choose a superpower.
Flying. Or teleportation.
Why? So you could teleport to the North Pole?
Yep.
Nice. Favorite 14er you've climbed?
Wetterhorn Peak.
Kelly and I are in mortal danger. Who do you save first?
Are you in different places?
We're in the same place.
Then I could probably save you both at the same time.
That's not the question.
You're staying at my house. So just keep that
I'm going to go with Kelly on this one.
Fair.
your last meal, what would it be?
Steak and potatoes.
Is that the only thing you eat?
And broccoli and carrots.
First call when you're in a bind.
Probably my boss, Mr. David.
It's not your parent?
I would call my mom second.
Oh. There you go, Bob.
Shout out Andy's mom. If you could go back in time, which hobby would have you tried?
I almost got into fencing, which would have been very cool, and I'd still like to, but I hear it's a very expensive sport, but I think the athleticism and the footwork involved is very cool.
Past or future?
In the future.
If you could compete in any Olympic sport, which would it be?
The Winter Olympics, either bobsled or something relating to skiing, or if I was good enough, the big air on the snowboard.
Machine Gun Kelly or Youngblood?
Definitely not Machine Gun Kelly, but I have no idea who the other guy is.
Got him.
Which band have you seen the most live?
Coheed and Cambria.
Oh.
I've seen Coheed and Cambria at least 4 times.
What is your favorite thing about Kelly?
She can drive off-road better than just about anybody I've seen.
While braking my truck at the same time. What's your favorite thing about Josiah?
Like goofy smile. It's so silly.
What's your favorite thing about my fit?
You're fit?
Yeah.
Wow,
outfit.
fire fit, bro. I do like vests. I
Okay.
prefer more pockets.
Critique noted.
Okay, last question. Where should we go to eat?
Do you want tacos?
You guys are the locals. You're supposed to be showing me
Oh
around.
my God. This is rapid fire. You have to
This man-
answer.
He was like, yo, I'm hungry.
You guys said
Actually,
you
I'm
were
pretty
hungry.
sure we said
I've been at home eating fruit snacks all day. I'm
Yeah.
not hungry.
He lives on fruit snacks.
burritos or tacos or burgers. Where are we
Tacos.
going? Where are we
Tacos are
going?
awesome, dude. Big fan of tacos.
Big
Okay.
fan of tacos.
Huge
All right,
fan
we're
of
going to go get
tacos.
tacos.
Go get tacos.
Okay, thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
What's
Thanks,
the one
Andy.
Mexican
Love you.
place we always go to?
Oh, it's downtown. It's a shameless plug. What's it called? Friggin' Jose Muldoon's.
Yeah, dude.
This has been
The Roller.
and the Stroller.
And special guest.
Oh yeah, and in.
Special guest Andy. Thank you for listening to the Roller and the Stroller podcast. We're rolling out.
This is a Sidewall Studios production.
Boom! Oh, we should keep that moving.